What if someone told you that there are 8 images that will drastically change your opinion on Dragon Ball forever? And in this video, we'll be taking a look at 8 extremely unique images from this wonderful artist called Fenyo, who has created some of the most unique Dragon Ball art out there that will really change your mind on what if scenarios, character interactions, and how characters live their lives. But the reason why this video was done was to give credit to many of the artists out there that have been lost. We all know that there's a huge problem in the Dragon Ball community where people re-upload art or don't give credit to many of these artists, and MatPat from Game Theorist talked about one of these issues as he himself has dealt with this issue over the course of many years, especially when you want to do in-depth video editing. And for Fenyo and for all of the artists out there today, I will be giving Fenyo credit for both his Instagram and his Twitter in the description. And let's get straight into the analysis as we're going to go in depth about each of these awesome images that Fenyo made. So starting off with the first image, we have a sequence in which Goku and King Piccolo are having a fight, but as you can see from the image here, King Piccolo regenerated from that attack that Goku launched on him that essentially killed him in the original timeline. Now, the reason why this image is unique is because if this has happened and King Piccolo managed to actually regenerate after Goku's attack, this would have created a very serious dilemma for planet Earth. First of all, as we know from the original events of history, Goku was completely exhausted after he killed King Piccolo. So if King Piccolo still had some fight left in him, Goku would have stood no chance against him and Earth would have been doomed. In addition to this, unless Tien or somebody else managed to use the Mafuba and seal King Piccolo away, this would now mean that King Piccolo has full domain over planet Earth, and the only way to kill him is if King Kami essentially committed suicide and got rid of King Piccolo. But if you kill King Piccolo, this creates a dilemma where if Kami committed suicide and died, that now means that you can no longer use the Dragon Balls to bring back anybody in the future if anything else were to happen. So even if you killed King Piccolo, that doesn't necessarily help you in future scenarios where you may need the Dragon Balls once again. So I feel like this image really speaks to itself in many ways if this event actually happened. And as we move on to our next event, we actually have a sequence in which we're looking at Tien with 3 arms on his back and his missing arm from the Saiyan arc. And this is essentially a what if scenario on what if Tien used his multi-arm technique and grew 2 arms in the fight against Nappa. Now, while I think this would have been very cool because we hadn't really seen this attack being used much after Dragon Ball except for that one time in Super, I feel, and I think we can all agree here guys, that if Tien truly had this technique against Nappa, it wouldn't have really have made a huge difference because of the power scaling gap against all of the Saiyans themselves. I mean, Vegeta was essentially giving them a chance anyways by allowing them to have 3 extra hours against Goku, so in reality this would have only have prolonged the fight against Nappa by a few extra minutes, and Tien probably would have committed suicide anyways, assuming that Chaozu would have died. So while this is a very cool image that I think would have been awesome for the show, it doesn't really change the events of Dragon Ball because of how strong Nappa and Vegeta were, and Vegeta essentially giving them a handicap to help them anyways. Now, as we move on to our third image here, guys, here's where things get extremely interesting. So, this image, as you can see here, translated by Lovely Kotori, this image is pretty much featuring Android 18 playing with the virtual reality device, and Android 17 saying, "You gotta stop playing this with this device, you were acting so childish," and 18 telling him to shut up. Now, the reason why I feel like this image is very interesting is for 2 reasons. First of all, I feel like this is a direct metaphor to Dragon Ball fans who play with not only virtual reality devices, but video games in general, where we see Android 18 looking like she's about to blast something because her virtual reality is becoming so real to her, it's as if she's reacting in real life with her own attacks. And this is very interesting because we've played with characters like Android 18 and Android 17 in a lot of video games, and we're essentially experiencing what they're experiencing, or shall we say, they're experiencing what they're experiencing in that image by seeing how it's like to see a Dragon Ball character going into a virtual reality game and imagining themselves as their own character in a video game. And that themselves is one of the very interesting things about this image. In addition to this, I also think that the time period for this image is kind of a what if scenario on what if Android 18 never got together with Krillin. The reason why this is because unlike the future androids that were way more fixated on taking human lives, 17 and 18 seem to be a lot more calm and juvenile in this as opposed to the sadistic androids of the future. And because of this, if 18 never hooked up with Krillin, she probably would have just traveled the world with him in trucks and just would have probably have stolen some things from a few stores, or you know, eventually have just settled down and had a family in the future, but they would have just have been bandit-like characters without being a serious threat to the planet Earth. And I feel like this image definitely really capitalizes on two major things. But as we go on to our fourth image here, guys, this image is similar to the last one as that it features Android 17 and 18 again, but this time we see them where they're at a lottery booth where 18 won all of these prizes and 17 is pissed off that he only has one award. And as translated by lovely Katori once again, 18 is essentially saying to hurry up, we need to get out of here, and 17 is saying shut up, I want to get another one. And similar to the last image, the interesting thing about this one is that the roles are now reversed, where 17 is acting childish and 18 is acting like the one who wants to get out of the situation, as opposed to the last scenario where 17 was acting more mature and Android 18 was acting so fixated on her video game. And while Android 21 is in this image, there really seems to be no true correlation between her and those characters, but it is interesting to see that the normal Android 21 is acting completely human-like in the scenario for these androids to get their prizes. And I truly feel like, once again, this is really capitalizing on the things that 17 and 18 would be doing for entertainment had 18 never gotten with Krillin, and how 17 would have been a completely different character had he stayed with 18 in his life. But as we move on to our fifth image here, guys, as we go in chronological order throughout Dragon Ball, we have a what if scenario on what if Vegeta essentially jumped into the battle between Dabura and Gohan and killed Dabura in the process. Now, this image really makes us think, because I did a video back in the day on this channel, and if you guys remember when we did this video, it was essentially a what if the rock paper scissors match between Goku, Gohan, and Vegeta went in a completely different way. And the crazy thing about that video is, if that rock paper scissors match was different, and let's say Gohan fought against Pui Pui and then Vegeta essentially ended up fighting against Dabura, the entire events of the Buu arc would have taken place because of Gohan's performance against Dabura and how that changed the pacing of everything. So if Vegeta got frustrated and jumped into this fight and killed Dabura, that essentially means that he probably would not have gotten possessed in all likelihood unless Babidi could still do it anyways, and that would have meant that Majin Buu would have never have been hatched simply by Vegeta jumping in and killing Dabura in the process. And I definitely feel like this is a scenario that would have been very realistic for Dragon Ball had Vegeta actually acted earlier. But as we move on to our sixth image of analysis here, guys, this one is actually featuring Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Majin Vegeta. So what if Super Saiyan 3 Goku actually went all out and fought against Majin Vegeta in this image? Well, the interesting thing about this image here, guys, is the fact that if Goku were to go Super Saiyan 3 against Majin Vegeta, this could go in two different ways. Either Babidi connects enough energy from the fight that Buu would have hatched even earlier, or Goku would have went Super Saiyan 3, knocked out Vegeta within seconds, and then Majin Buu would have never have been hatched because Gohan and the Supreme Kai would have been able to take out both Babidi and Dabura. And as a result of this, right after Goku takes out Majin Vegeta, he could just simply teleport to where Gohan is and help out in the fight against Babidi and Dabura. So obviously, had Goku gone Super Saiyan 3 from the beginning and, you know, Babidi did not get enough energy right away, Goku could have saved a lot of events of that arc by simply knocking out Vegeta earlier. However, when we move on to our next image here, guys, we have a very unique piece of fan art. And this image here by Fenyo features Frieza, Shilai, Gogeta, and Broly all in suits. And the thing that I think we can interpret about this image here, guys, is that it is essentially looking as if this image is like a metaphor on the corporate universe of Dragon Ball mixed with real life. So in reality, because Frieza's looking at everybody and putting his hands over them like he controls the universe, it's as if Frieza is a competing business with Gogeta, Broly, and Sheila, because if you guys remember at the end of Dragon Ball Super Broly, Sheila and Broly are now allies together while Frieza is still an enemy, but Frieza's not dead. He still just exists throughout the universe, and as we could see from the end of the movie, Frieza still had his empire intact. And this image is essentially a metaphor on what the future of Dragon Ball will be, where Frieza will be a competing enemy, but he might not be killed right away as we would expect Goku and Vegeta and the rest of Earth's heroes to do. So this image is a very unique way to mix corporate universe with the Dragon Ball universe. And last but not least, guys, for our final image of analysis, we're going to take a look at this image featuring both Gogeta and Broly. And as you can see from this image here, both of them are in their Super Saiyan, their maxed out forms, where Broly is in his legendary Super Saiyan state and Gogeta is in his Super Saiyan blue state. And as we can see here, that they're playing cards. But why is this image unique? You see, Broly is a character who, as we can remember, he essentially grew up like Tarzan in this Dragon Ball universe as opposed to what was before. And in this universe, Broly playing with something like cards or socializing or kind of getting used to what a normal life would be extremely interesting for his character to see how Sheila and the other characters on Earth can impact him. So seeing Broly playing with something like cards would definitely be something that would be unique for his character. And even though Broly was a villain in the original Dragon Ball movies and was more of a force of nature in Dragon Ball Super Broly, in the future, if Broly is truly an ally, I feel like slice of life episodes can truly bring together this part of his character where he is not used to human society. And I definitely feel like while it's an exaggeration to see Broly playing cards in his Super Saiyan form, this is definitely something that we can see in the future in terms of socializing his character. So ultimately, guys, these have been 8 images that I really truly think change your perspective on Dragon Ball. Fenyo has made way more images than these, but I truly felt like these 8 would really make you think the most about the Dragon Ball franchise more than anything else. And in the comment section below, guys, let us know what you think about this video or any other images you liked from Fenyo, or how you would analyze these scenarios, as we could do a lot of what ifs just from looking at this video itself. So with everything else said, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys. And from now on, I'll always post a link to DeviantArt so we can support many of the artists out there.